All right, ladies and gentlemen. Did this little anime predict the future? That's what we're going to be exploring here. Back in the day, when I was much, much younger, I used to watch a lot of anime. This was one of those series I would watch, and I watched to completion, and I watched multiple times because it's a very dense anime, and it's easy to get lost in what is going on because it's like, I'd watch it several times, and I'm like, what's actually happening here? What is happening? But anyway, let's go ahead and check this out. Did Serial Experiments Lain predict everything? Well, and shout out to the channel, Elephant Steak. I don't know anything about elephant steak, but I do like steak, and I guess it's good. Anyway, let's go press the play button.
Or haven't you? Staring at you from the cover of a YouTube playlist, or blinking from behind an anime gif scrolling by on Twitter. This character that whispers to us like some vague cultural artifact from a time long past. Lain is someone that everybody has seen, but so few people know or understand. Long before we traded our attention spans
He's
for
become a
dopamine
meme.
hits and
That right there. I remember that scene. Yeah. In a way, Serial Experiments Lain predicted IRL streamers, because that's what I think of when I see this. Those people who walk around with their phone tied to them because they're streaming everything they do. Now, usually, as of late, they're kind of doing things to annoy everyone as well. But, okay. All right.
Algorithms learn to read our minds. She saw it all coming. The internet we're in today isn't just like the one she lived in. It is the one she lived in. Lain isn't just some old aesthetic. She was a prophecy.
I wondered how she got all those computer parts and stuff, because they had to have been expensive.
Lain found me at a strange time in my life. I was in my third year of university, staying up until 2 in the morning trying to finish my computer science assignments. I was always exhausted, bags under my eyes and cold mugs of coffee on my desk. One night, unable to sleep.
I was just in high school working at Whataburger. Okay.
I decided to throw on some retro anime to try and relax. If you've ever been in a similar headspace to the one I was in at that time, you'll understand why this show resonated with me so strongly. From the very first episode, I was hooked. Not by the story, not really. It barely holds your hand, barely explains itself, but
yeah, that's true. Like, the story does confuse you.
The vibe.
Glad I'm not the only one.
The show is constantly drowning you in silence or trapping the viewer in liminal space.
Yeah. Yeah, the shadows look strange, right? They look like you're not supposed to touch them.
I enjoyed the early sections of this show in a similar way to how I enjoyed watching The Shining. But the more I watched and researched about the series, the more I began to find it quietly horrifying. Not in the fun horror movie way,
I think that's
but in
intended.
a this is too real kind of way. Like someone was banging on the inside of my monitor, screaming a warning that myself and everyone I knew had already ignored. Lain herself has become what I would describe as a cultural phantom, in a sense that so many people online know about her, but so few have actually seen the show. GIFs and short clips from the show.
Dude, I guarantee no one has seen the show. No one recently, anyway. Okay? You go to an anime convention, ask them if they've ever seen this. They'll be like, what? Right?
Always do numbers, but if you asked a lot of these people what it was actually about, they'd probably just shrug. For as much as I like this series, even I'm willing to admit that it's slow and hard to understand.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop to explain much and always just continues on, with little care given to if the viewer even comprehended what just happened. It's definitely not an easy watch, but I would still recommend that you check it out yourself regardless.
It's not easy, but the underlying horror kept me hooked. And anyway.
If only for the vibe of it. And also because I'll be spoiling the entire anime over the course of this video. Serial Experiments Lain is, in the simplest terms, a 13-episode anime about a young girl who uploads herself to the internet and becomes a god. Now, that's a gross oversimplification, but it's enough understanding for what we're going to talk about today. To me, its main themes are connection to everyone leading to isolation, splitting personality through different online personas, and regular people achieving godhood through internet notoriety. Now, to someone watching this in the current year, those themes probably don't sound very groundbreaking. I'm sure you've seen Black Mirror do it a dozen times.
Oh, bloody hell, what if the telly was evil? God save the Queen!
But this anime came out in 1998.
Yes. It came out way before everything was like advancing, right? I mean, 98 was what the days of dial-up modems and AOL and stuff. I mean, in 98, yeah, I was in online AOL chat rooms. You know? That
And for reference, MySpace didn't launch until 2003. The show wasn't just ahead of the curve, it's more like it drew the curve. The way the show predicted so many of the issues that plague my generation is honestly pretty chilling. So let's break it all down.
Alone
Our
Together.
protagonist, Lain, is a quiet and socially isolated child. She lives at home with her angsty older sister, emotionally distant mother, and tech-obsessed father. She does have a few friends, but they have to practically drag her out of the house to do anything with her.
I bet there's a really fun girl inside that shell you're wrapped up in, just dying to get out. Right, Lain?
Lain isn't mistreated or abused, but she's disconnected. She's someone whose life is quiet and
He's probably autistic.
remarkable.
But also very relatable. You think about it. There's a lot of people. Oh man, there's a lot of people who are like this. That are just they're just isolated, man. They're more tapped into their phone and whatever nonsense they got caught in, right?
Someone who feels like something's missing, but can't quite put her finger on what. That's when The Wired enters the story. It's a fictional technology that connects all people together through the sharing of information. Effectively, it's Lain's version of the internet. And as Lain integrates with The Wired, her entire world opens up. She connects to countless other people, drastically expanding her world. The Wired allows her to meet a lot of other characters and introduces her to most of the main plot lines in the show. There's a real sense as you watch the changes in her behavior that The Wired seems to be the first place where Lain actually feels any real sense of belonging. But immersing herself in The Wired doesn't get rid of Lain's isolation. Her family grows distant, watching her from her bedroom door as she drifts further and further away from them. Her friends grow concerned with her behavior, and she's so immersed in her own world that she doesn't even care.
Just what do you mean? You see them on The Wired? No, a net pal isn't a friend. I mean, it shouldn't even be considered an acquaintance. Anyway, Lain, tell us what kind of sites you've been connecting to lately. It's a secret.
Things progress to the point where her online lifestyle and disconnection from the real world brings out a darker side of herself, which pushes away one of the last real human connections she still has. Now, I've got a question for you. Have you ever seen those memes where the guy disconnects from the voice call with his buddies and he instantly gets hit with a big wave of emptiness?
I haven't, but
and I've always found them really relatable, but never really understood why. I mean, you always get that feeling of sadness when you turn off your PC at 3 a.m. after a late night of gaming with your friends. The thing is that I
understand what it means. It's been a long time since I gamed like that. But yeah, I understand that for sure. Because you turn it off and everything goes quiet. And you realize you are alone. And you don't want the party to end. But it did.
felt like this after just hanging out with people at their place, like ordering a pizza and watching a movie. After some reflection, I now believe it's because as fun as gaming online with the boys is, it's not a substitute for real conversation. While it may feel like you're spending time with friends, the harsh reality is that you are sitting alone in a dark room staring at a glowing TV or computer screen. The second your call ends, you're instantly reminded of that. That's why it feels like connection until it doesn't anymore. I'm not saying online friends and gathering spaces are worthless or should be avoided. I'm just saying I don't think they're a proper replacement for real people in real life. And just to reiterate, this is a story that was told at a time where the term chronically online was still decades away from being thrown around regularly.
Yeah, that's true, man. Wow, this anime was like way ahead of its time. Like it knew what was going to happen. Like pay close attention when you see those scenes again where you'll see Lain like on the computer, on the wired, on the internet, and you'll see like these floating screens. Those aren't really like floating screens. It's just kind of, it's just animating and letting you know like kind of what's happening on that screen, giving you an idea that there's like all this information coming at her, you know, on that monitor. Anyway, It's yeah, it knew the future.
Story shows just how dangerous it can be to start treating your digital presence like a replacement for reality. Because when we do, we risk losing the real people around us, just like she did. As the series continues onwards and Lain becomes more and more entwined with the Wired, we start to see her personality change a bit. There's the shy, quiet Lain we start the series with, who exists in real life, but then we meet the version of Lain who lives in the Wired. She's confident, bold, and inquisitive. It's clear that embodying an online persona allows Lain to become someone that she isn't able to in real life. And for a bit, this seems like a good thing, but it doesn't last. The empowerment she feels early on in the anime quickly takes a darker turn. Because the more Lain slips into her digital self, the harder it becomes for her to tell which version is actually her. Her identity starts to splinter. She becomes unpredictable, inconsistent. Different people begin to see different Lains. And sometimes she doesn't even recognize herself. It's not just duality anymore, it becomes a full-on fragmentation of her personality. There's this old clip from the show online that's become quite popular. It's from a scene late in the series where Lain speaks directly to the viewer and questions which version of herself is the real one.
Yeah.
I guess that I'm confused again. Am I here or am I there? I don't know. Over there, I'm everywhere. I know that, but here is connected to over there. Is that right? But then where is the real me after all is said and done?
Wow.
The thing that disturbed me here wasn't the clip itself, but instead what people were saying about it.
I'm in Lain era again.
Trying to reconcile my several personalities, I crafted 4 different friend groups and online forums.
Going through my Lain phase. Let me become a digital martyr real quick.
Yeah,
I'm
people
having
can
an
relate to
identity
it.
crisis, and this is my biggest comfort right now.
She's just like me for real.
Of course, some of these people are joking, but some of them aren't. And to me, that was pretty chilling. What Lain is going through is awful. She's losing her sense of self as she falls further and further down this online rabbit hole. Why would anyone want to identify with that? I couldn't believe anybody would look at Lain and go, oh my god, she's literally me. But then again...
But that's where we are, though. And we do it so willingly, and it's like we don't even think about the consequences about that. And as a parent, I'm watching my kids kind of like battle that. They spend a lot of time on screens, Roblox or whatever nonsense. Okay, I tell them, hey, who are your real life friends? Go meet up with them. But it's like even their friends are kind of doing something similar, kind of doing their own thing. It's like, okay.
Why shouldn't they? I mean, think about your own online presence. There's the quiet you that's on YouTube right now, probably watching this video on your computer or your phone by yourself. There's the sarcastic and angry you that rage baits people on Twitter. The unhinged 2-brain cell Twitch chatter you. The please hire me, I swear to God I'm normal you on your LinkedIn profile. Hell, there's probably a you that...
Yeah, there's like your work you, your family you, the you that you may have when you're like around the guys or whatever. Yeah, I get you.
Joined your class or meeting this morning with your microphone muted and your camera turned off so you could scroll TikTok or Instagram Reels the whole time. And there's so many more. They're all you, of course, but not completely. We slide into these online personas and embody them for acceptance in different spaces from different people. I know I do. While most of America was still on dial-up internet, the people who wrote this show realized that we're allowed to be anyone we want online. But this fact is one hell of a double-edged sword. The modern internet gives us all these mirrors we get to see ourselves in, but so few of them are honest.
Who used net zero back in the day?
The deeper Lain slips into the Wired, the more she grows.
I
Not
read
just
this part of the
emotionally
anime.
or mentally, but metaphysically as well. This change isn't linear
The
either.
whole concept of like God being in the machine and God being created by man because of like people believe in him and all whatever is interesting.
It spikes. Episode by episode, her power snowballs, expanding with an eerie, almost unnatural momentum. What starts as a quiet curiosity, a shy girl tinkering with her computer, becomes something far more terrifying. Lain doesn't just browse the Wired anymore, she is the Wired. She becomes omnipresent, ubiquitous. She's everywhere and nowhere, simultaneously online and offline, both watching and being watched. Characters in the show begin to recognize her before she even speaks. Strangers know her name. But what's more disturbing is that this power doesn't stay confined to the virtual world. Eventually, it begins to bleed into the real world as well. Lain's godhood spills from behind the screen and into physical reality. When this happens, she starts to reshape it, warp it, rewriting people's memories, altering timelines, and bending the world to her liking. By the time we realize what's happening, it's too late. Lain has ascended into something beyond human comprehension. She's not just a girl anymore, she's a myth. The kind of thing you hear about in urban legends or whispered warnings on forum posts at 3 in the morning. A digital deity born from chat logs, static, and the quiet hum of servers. Now, I'm
Digital
sure all this
demon, more
sounds
like
quite
it.
far-fetched and fantastical, but we have our own online gods too. Nowadays, internet personalities like YouTubers and streamers have become monolithic in size and influence, inspiring massively dedicated and often borderline obsessed fan bases. Calling these people simple entertainers doesn't feel right anymore. They're more like cultural landmarks. Watching footage of an IRL streamer getting mobbed by
I
rabid
could see
fans
that.
while visiting a country he isn't even from is pretty insane.
Dude, that's an insane situation. I remember that, yeah.
When Lain first aired, most Americans were still using AOL Instant Messenger as their prime form of online communication.
I know I
I wonder
was.
how these people would react if you could go back and show them this footage now. I don't think they'd believe it. It would look like religion.
It would look like something from, what was that? Oh, man. MTV. Oh, man. Man, I can't even remember. What was that? Oh, man. They would think it was some music video, probably. I know. It looked like something that you would see on MTV.
We might sometimes ask what our friends think about a new topic, but we'll always check what our favorite creators posted about it. A friend of mine once told me about a guy who won't give his opinion on a new album until Anthony Fantano reviews it, because
That is lame. I hope that's not you guys. Like, you should have your own opinion. Have your opinion. Okay? Just because someone on YouTube, I don't care who they are, says it's good or not, does that, dude, ultimately, you give it a go. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Very simple. Okay? If you don't like it, someone else likes it, and you're like, you like them, so then you try to get yourself to like it, you're just coping. Okay? You didn't like it. Okay? If you change your mind on your own, I understand that.
he's scared of being wrong. But while regular people have...
Don't worry about being wrong. Just worry about being true to yourself, man. That's it.
use the internet to achieve levels of worship previously thought exclusive only to celebrities, lately it's become clear that the real gods of the internet aren't biological. They're mechanical. The content people consume is being decided less and less by personal taste or word of mouth, and instead by the suggestion of algorithms. The machine itself shows us what we want to see next, and sometimes seems to know us even better than we know ourselves. On YouTube, I see comments all the time of people thanking the algorithm for giving them good video recommendations. And the crazy thing is that never even seems strange to me. I've even left comments like that myself. Worse still, as artificial intelligence evolves, we're getting closer and closer to a world where even thinking becomes optional.
Yeah,
You don't have to
that's
draft
true.
your email, ChatGPT will write it for you. You don't need to plan your meals, or think up a workout regimen, or brainstorm ideas for your classroom. Just ask, just click. Why wrestle with uncertainty when something else already knows what you want? So while Serial Experiments Lain predicted how a single person could rise to godlike status through digital influence, I don't think even its writers could have imagined how far we'd actually fall.
No.
Because
No,
it's
but-
not just about one
But
person.
they did, though, in the way, didn't they? You know what? I'm more convinced that they were from the future, man. They time traveled.
Anymore. It's about surrendering control, not to a charismatic voice in the wired, but to something colder, less human. Something that never sleeps and never speaks, but still runs everything.
But I could see them cooking up this idea like, hey, what if someone's on the internet to the point to where they become it, or they start living on the internet? Okay? Because even then, the internet existed. It was just crude. And a lot of the stuff happening in the show, it's just illustrating, like, the idea of someone being able to put themselves in it physically, which obviously is a fantasy. I mean, especially back in those days. I mean, it's just crazy, right? Like there's a lot of scenes and Lain in Serial Experiments Lain where she's interacting with people that she's not really with, if you think, but it's animated as if she is with them, and for all intents and purposes, like she is with them in the show. But if you think about it, what's happening is it's all like remote communication through like the internet and stuff. The closest thing to that in real life would be like someone who is, people who are like, let's say, living on Discord, for example, and just they live their life on Discord, and they're constantly talking and getting involved in various servers and various dramas and all this stuff. Okay. And they take it with them wherever they go. And you can change Discord to something else, some other platform. But yeah. I mean, I think you get it. If I get it,
when I first had the idea for this video, I had originally planned for an ending that would have been far colder and more cynical. At the end of this series, when Lain deletes herself to save the world, I wanted to compare this to a person dying in real life, saying that despite the noble self-sacrifice that Lain performs, it's a fantasy that isn't possible anymore. Nowadays, we all leave digital ghosts behind. At least in terms of the internet, nobody ever really dies. No matter how hard you try, everyone knows you can't really remove yourself from an online space anymore. People like PewDiePie or Mr. Beast, love them or hate them, they've achieved something close to internet immortality. They'll outlive trends, platforms, maybe even the people who first made them famous. So that was gonna be my point, that Lain's ending was poetic but impossible. A relic of an era where you could still walk away, still hit delete, and have it actually mean something. But then I watched the show again.
But then again, I guess it depends on like your level of like, I guess, internet fame, if you will. If let's say like there's a lot of streamers who've been grinding and get kind of nowhere, right? There's a lot of people who want to be that influencer, right? And they're constantly trying to do it. But if they stop, who's really going to remember what they did or who they are, what they were doing? Sure, you could find their stuff if you're looking for it, and maybe someone may remember, but it's like, it could easily just get forgotten and then lost in the weeds of all the other people who had been trying and all that stuff.
Again. And I was struck by something else. Something more human. See, near the end of the series, when Lain is at her absolute most online, when she is essentially a god connected to the entire human subconscious and doing the most damage to everyone around her, there's this moment where Lain's friend Alice comes to her house to visit her. She can't really understand what's actually going on, but she can tell Lain is suffering.
I remember this scene, and the first thing that came to mind was, she must stink. Okay, think about this. How long has Lain been like that? Laying in that pile of cables and whatever. She must absolutely stink. You think she unplugged herself to go use the restroom? No, man. No. In fact, this is true, man. I thought this. I was like, Lain must be sitting in a puddle of her own fluids. Must be. Because, like, this is disgusting. It looks disgusting. It looks like it would be filthy.
Suffering and hurting the people around her, and she wants to know why. And despite everything that's happened, all the isolation and trauma, this one genuine connection with another person is enough to snap her out of it, to make her realize that the wired isn't the answer to all her problems. The answer is right in front of her. It's her friend. And this ended up being the most powerful moment of the show for me. That in a series about how the interconnectedness of the modern day makes people lose the things that make them human, it stops to remind you that, in actuality, we can hold on to the real connections to people around us, and that can keep us human instead. If you're lucky enough to have at least one person like this in your life, I think you should cherish and hold on to them. Because in a world that's quickly devolving into meaningless noise and parasocial relationships, a genuine bond with another person is the best thing we still have. And that's where I want to end this video. Not with bitterness or resignation, a good way to end it, but with a reminder.
I think that it's like the important takeaway from SCL. I think it is.
Despite what it may feel like, just remember, you're not lost. You're just reaching. And if you ever find someone reaching back, you should do what you can to hold on to them.
Oh, nice way to end that. Yeah. All right. So did this little anime predict the future? I'm convinced it has. I'm convinced that it did predict the future. I mean, we watched that together. I mean, I've seen the anime several times. So, yeah. I mean, it came out in 98. Internet had just been starting. You know, you did not have any IRL streamers, you know. There wasn't really anything about VR. The closest thing to VR, I think, was like Virtual Boy. When did that come out? But there's scenes in Serial Experiments Lain that really nail it as far as what's happening currently. Like people streaming constantly on their phone with headsets, even walking the streets, people living online, really immersing themselves to the point to where like it's unhealthy, right? Where they will sacrifice everything just to be online. It becomes paramount to everything, even real relationships. So yeah. And this is something that happened in 98. This anime. It wasn't 2000. It wasn't any time recently. It was back in the days of AOL. It nailed it, man. It really did. Anyway, with that said, you guys let me know what you thought about this. It's not an it's not a music video, so I don't know who's going to make it all to the end of this. But let me know if you did, okay? With that said, y'all take it easy and have a good one.